name's Dave Swillam. Let's get ready to hustle.
All right, so welcome back to the Waking Up From Work podcast. You're listening to episode 101 tonight, crossing over to the other side of that 100 there. So thank you for everyone that has listened through at the kickstart of this, and this is starting off the next bit of this journey here. So I figured a great way to start it off was to invite in a friend of mine that I've met through times where it's been harder to meet friends here. So tonight I am joined on by the founder of the Greenhouse Recording Studio in New Hampshire, co-founder of the Unlabel Record Label, right?
Unlabel Records, yeah.
Unlabel Records, co-founder of Unlabel Records, coming from New Hampshire. I've got John McArthur here. Welcome, man.
Cool. Yeah, nice to be here, man.
So for those that don't know John, I met John. I don't know how that even happened to join up in that group, but I have an audio mastermind that I do for New England, and there are people out of state too that are in there, to be honest. So anyone that wants to know about that type of stuff, we chat like once a month. But John has been an awesome influence in that group. And yeah, John, like, do you want to run people through like what are these things that you got, and then maybe we can dig a little bit into like where these things came from?
Sure. So the greenhouse we started. My son Sam is actually the recording engineer. I'm not an engineer, so he went to Huston University, studied audio engineering up there. So round about his halfway through his senior year, which he was due to graduate in December, we started looking around for, like you did last year, looking for real estate where we could build a studio. And so my wife was my wife Reva was touring around with Sam while I was out in Las Vegas giving a speech. And they said, hey, we found a house and it has a recording studio in it. So they said, we think we're going to buy it. So they did. Wow. So Sam lived in the house while he finished up his degree, did a few recording sessions with the previous owner. And then we went full time in, I guess it was January 2018 is when we went full time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Not too long ago.
Not too long ago. So I moved up here. Yeah, we used to, before we took it over, it was called the Recording Co-op. Ryan Ordway was running it with Franz Haas. So we continue to work with him some, and he still gets over here occasionally and does some work with Sam. We started a number of record projects, singles, stuff like that.
Well, I guess like because they're two things that coincide, but they're also kind of two different things going on. So basically, what I'm hearing is that Sam went to school for engineering. I know you have a huge background in network, in music anyway. So how did the idea essentially that you were going to, because this is the same spot that I landed at as well, doing the same thing to some degree, right? So like what led to that decision versus Sam going to work in some studio or rent a commercial space, or like what went behind the process of buying a property and doing that portion of it? Because I think, it's a very unique experience trying to purchase a property either with a recording studio on it, or in my instance, finding one to make one on. It's just a weird process. And I feel like it also benefits people, like even if you're not a recording artist out there, like, cause I know we have a bunch of different creatives on the show. Yeah. Even just trying to get a creative space is like a home business thing. It's just its own journey.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
how did that go?
Well, let's see. I mean, my brother had a recording studio down in Tampa, Florida back when I was in college, and I actually dropped out of graduate school to go play music with him. So
no way.
Yeah. So we had built a recording studio together down in Tampa. I did that. I played music for like 7 years. then I went and took a corporate job, Well, I worked in a university for a while, and then I took a corporate job in banking and stuff like that. So I sort of was in music heavily full time, and then moved out. I was pretty much out of it, for 20 years. Not completely out, but definitely not full time in. Then I started ramping it up again, and then when Sam started getting interested in music, I mean, he was writing EDM all through high school. He would turn in EDM records in lieu of turning in homework assignments. So we knew he loved music, and he's actually started at RIT in industrial design, but after a semester of that, he figured out that wasn't what he wanted to do.
Sure.
So he went and transferred to Husson, to New England School of Communications at Husson, studied audio engineering. And look, I mean, we're fortunate because my wife and I both had, corporate jobs for a lot of years and saved a lot of money. And so Sam could have gone and apprenticed somewhere, but he had really good training. And we felt like I wanted to get back closer to music myself.
Yeah.
I mean, this was kind of my third act,
It's
music.
crazy that that worked out that way, that Sam also came into being like, this is exactly what I want to do. It's like almost like it the universe pulled you back into this. Like you had to be here.
Well, my wife pulled me back into performing, and then Sam pulled me back into the business. So it's been really good. I mean, I won't deny it's been a really hard time, with COVID and all, because we had some really good momentum coming up, and then COVID hit us pretty hard. But we're back at it, and as a matter of fact, there's a session going on today with a band.
Awesome.
They got a 3-day lockout. So anyway, we'd started doing house concerts, my wife and I, because we wanted to create a music scene where there wasn't a music scene. We were living in this before the studio.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. And where was that at? Still in New Hampshire?
Down in Massachusetts.
In Mass.
Yeah, in Holliston, Mass. So
okay,
yeah, we used to put 40 people in our basement or 35 people in our living room to have a really intimate house concert kind of experience. I'm not a big crowds guy, and so that was great, And this is just sort of a natural evolution of that, to sort of go from that to start in the recording studio. And with COVID, we knew that there were a lot of artists that didn't have money to invest in projects. And so we said, well, we can upfront the money, for some of the projects. And so we're doing some investing in projects now under the record label. So that's what that's about.
Yeah. So we can totally jump into that. I'm sure I'll kind of randomly jump back and forth between the two, because sometimes there's a crazy story for how things develop, and then there's a more natural one. It sounded the way that you framed it, at least, it sounded extremely natural for these things to happen. I don't know if it felt that way at the time, but it sounds very natural the way that it came together to kind of exist.
Yeah, it's an evolution, because you sit there and you look at what do artists need. So they write great songs. Maybe they need some help on the production side. This, so you do help them with co-writes and stuff like that. So we've got people who work with artists on co-writes, but they need places to play. So that was another part of the business. So we actually added the record label, a publishing company, and we acquired 2/3 of a booking business, so we could start to do more event development, things like that. I don't know if you heard of NH Music Collective, but
no,
it was out of Concord. So Brad Myrick started it, and he's a phenomenal guitarist, and he had started booking a number of clubs. And so my wife and I invested in his company, and then put it all under one umbrella company with the record label, publishing company, and the booking business and artist development business. So yeah, so basically it's think of it as kind of a 360 thing,
Yeah. So we've talked about the Unlabel a little bit.
Yeah.
Explain that concept, because I feel like some of your statement comes right through the name on it. What's the idea of the Unlabel, and kind of what is the expectation for some of these things that you've put under that umbrella to create? What is this? Sure.
Well, record labels have a bad rap. Everybody wants to get signed, and then nobody wants the contract that you sign.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, that's so true.
Not true. Like I don't know if you know the story of Keena Grannis. She's a phenomenal singer-songwriter out of LA, and she won some contest where she got, her song got played on at the Super Bowl, and by winning the contest and having her song played at the Super Bowl, she was offered a record contract, and she looked at it and she said, I don't want this. And so she walked away from it. So it's like, so I see that a lot. So, I mean, basically the record companies, I mean, I know they're in it to make a fortune. I'm in it to help artists get product out there, have a pool that gets replenished so we can invest in more projects. And so we're looking for some upside, but it's nothing like what the record labels, like the big record labels, are looking for. And the investment is smaller, frankly. One of the things that we do enable with the record label is I find that a lot of artists will put out a great CD, but they don't leave any money for marketing. It's
all the time,
right?
Almost like mostly, really.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So they
which I appreciate. Like I appreciate, like as an audio engineer, I appreciate when people care about the sound. So like I definitely don't tell people not to do that, right? But then it's like if a tree falls in the forest, doesn't make a sound. It's like, well, if you paid for really good sound, you don't want to put it and just leave it in the middle of a forest. Like you got to get that sound some places so that people can appreciate it and care about it. And that's where the marketing budget comes in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in general, our guidance is for every dollar you put into the recording, put $1 into marketing, and the marketing can be, update your photos, do a killer video, do some press outreach, do some, outreach to radio shows, podcasters, things like that, just get the word out. So we do that. And then the other thing that we do for people, because we have the booking business and we have the artist development business, we try to find ways for them to generate enough incremental income to be able to pay us back, even if they're not selling 1,000 copies of the CD or getting 100,000 streams. So
right.
Yeah,
because that's what happens with a lot of those deals that are like a really bad deal. Is the company, the record label says we'll give you X, like a really big front end. Right. And then they do help you with the marketing. Like it's not like they're not helping you, but they don't really have like a solid plan, it seems, most of the time, of like how will this really be recouped in a way that like allows this artist to live a life? Because that's what seems to happen is like some of the 360 deals and things that are positioned right now with record labels having so many issues keeping a hold of what they need for their income to run their big, they have a lot going on. I don't ever deny them that they're a business and they should function and be able to participate like a business. They have every right to do that. But it seems like a lot of deals, those deals that maybe that person passes up, come in when it's something where there's no plan in place of like, how will this ever be fulfilled? So that way this person doesn't owe you their life, just to keep their song. Right.
So that's it. We try to keep the budgets tight, so we're not spending $100,000 on or $40,000 on a recording, but we'll spend more than what they would have spent if they were funding it out of their performance revenue pre-album, and leave enough money to do some decent marketing and get them some promotion. And first project we funded, the artist was able to pay us back in 3 months, which in a record deal you can't do that. In a typical record deal you can't do that. And so and this was during COVID, man. So it's just like we were able to put on some outdoor concerts with her as a featured artist, and so it worked out. So she's got another one coming up that we're doing April 1st. That's Cameo,
who will be on the podcast after this one.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Like directly following this one. So people out there who are listening to this one, we're going to have one of the artists on John's label who has a new release coming out soon, actually going to be on the next episode to talk on the other side of this. So we'll get the dirt, John. Yeah. So yeah, I think the other part of it, and Dave, you know a bit about this as well, is like there's also the long game.
which is, things like sync licensing. None of that happens overnight. You know that. It's a slog, but the revenue can be decent on the back end. Most artists don't have time to pursue it. So we typically split that 50-50. If we can get a sync placement, great. We'll work hard to try to get placements. A lot of artists don't have time to figure it out and know how to set up the music to get a sync placement.
Yeah.
So, and I won't oversell you here. We're at the beginning stages of that, like you're a marathoner. We're treating this like a marathon. So
yeah, I'm not good at sprints. I'll tell you that much.
I never was. I never was either. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's killer because like, obviously being able to recoup what you have in it in 3 months is just unheard of, first of all. And second of all, on a local level, that is really impactful because like I think I probably know a lot of the artists. No, that's what Dakota and Senny I had known before I knew you from playing in clubs in Concord. They would just be they would be playing acoustic session or like they would be playing something in some night, a bunch of nights because I hit that circuit a lot. So I knew about them. But it's like, they are first of all very talented people, so they're putting out quality stuff. But at the same time, for them to have something with that power on a local level is extremely valuable, I think, because a lot of the reason why people go after a record label like that is because obviously they think that equals this. So like a lot of times they want the record label because they think that equals success. But right. I think also equally, so many artists that I've either had on the show or that I talk to for the very reason that you're saying, where they don't have time to like make that amount of music and the shows and like everything, and also try to dig into sync licensing, try to dig into like controlling each piece of marketing or like all these things to like help them do it. It's just like a lot to do. And like, I'm very aware of that because I have my day job and then my audio business here. And that hurts me as an artist because when I'm trying to write and record and play my own music, it just comes last. So like, right. That's something that I very much understand with, how many things could be on someone's plate and having something like that on a local level. I don't think that that's very common, especially not in New Hampshire. I feel like. Yeah.
I do want to be clear. You mentioned Senny and Dakota, neither of them are under the label, but we do work with them and have booked them and recorded them both. Senny's recording some stuff with us now and Dakota's recorded with us in the past. So it's interesting. So we designed the model to be non-threatening and very supportive. But I'll tell you, a lot of people, they're still nervous about it,
Yeah.
It's a very common reaction to say, I want to control everything. I want to own 100% of the publishing rights. I want to own 100% of the copyrights. I want to own 100% of the masters. And that's okay. That just means you have to do all the work, So yeah. And again, it's not a criticism of any approach. It's just what do you want to do? My goal is to fund a few projects, get recoupment relatively quickly, help the artist get recoupment relatively quickly so that I can then fund more projects. And then there'll be a long tail, hopefully, of small incremental revenue, longer tail, not super long, but long tail of other revenue from things like sync licensing. Because I don't know if you know, to get paid out on a sync license can take 2 years easily,
Wow. I knew it was called isn't it called like mail money or something? It's like you get the check in the mail and you just like, wow.
Yeah. Well, this is one guy who's like, the Brad.
2 years is incredible though. 2 years is significant.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's just like you think about it, it's like, if you get a placement on a TV show, right? You might get a little bit upfront money, but then you got residual money later. And the upfront money you might get 6 to 9 months after they agree to take it. And then the residuals will come after the TV show starts broadcasting, and everybody's floating the money. So, so everybody's got 90 days to pay, and there's like 3 levels.
Oh, I got it. Like one person, everyone's net 90, and like first one comes in, pays the budget at 90. The next one's like, great, now I've got that money so I can pay all these other people that were on this show.
Right.
Let me just wait a couple, 3 months to get there. All right, awesome. I will finally pay that at day 89.
Yeah. So the artist is net never, right? And that's so
you've gone off into the world. You might have moved a couple times. Like, you've had life events happen, and then finally you get paid for something that you did. And you're like,
right.
Oh, wow, I can't believe that I did do that at one point. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing is that a lot of artists don't know how to register to protect their rights to get or collect their royalties. They don't even register with ASCAP or BMI or CSAC or whatever, or Song Trust. They don't register. So we guide them through that process and make sure that they're, everything's properly registered.
Well, so I guess I know we talked about it. You're taking a very invested class in this to learn this, but on the purpose of this podcast, we don't have time to delve into this, but are there some basics that you can share for artists out there that are maybe listening to this right now and they're straight up I have no idea what you're even talking about, but even artists that are hey, where do I figure this out? Or what are some basics of starting to get into sync licensing or just claiming some of these things? Because I think there's a lot of money on the table for local artists that could have little odds and ends just from doing their normal weekend warrior stuff,
Well, so sync licensing is basically having your music attached to some video, whether it's a TV commercial or it's a TV show or it's a movie or a movie trailer. I mean, any of that. And so there are, for each of those outlets, someone called a music supervisor, and they select the music to go in the movie, in the TV show, right. And so they need a couple of things. They need to know that the person who says, yes, you can use my music, has the authority to say it. So they need to be able to clear the music quickly.
Sure.
So somebody's got to have the authority to say yes. Sometimes it's got to clear in 24 hours,
Wow. The music supervisors, I want that in there. And literally they have 24 hours of we need a yes or no of whether this can or cannot, or else it's scrapped.
Right.
We got to get out.
And if there's 3 people you have to check with, if there were 4 co-writers on it, you can pretty much get that opportunity by goodbye if you haven't made it clear who's got the authority to say yes. So,
wow.
So there's that kind of thing. And then it's having the music in the proper format. So maybe you wrote this killer song, but hey, maybe they only want the rhythm section, or maybe they only want the voice, or, so they want the acapellas. Strip out the tracks into groups, right? So you take all the tracks and you put them at least into stem groups, and then master all of them, because nobody wants unmastered groups, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're really doing your job, then you use a platform like maybe Disco, so that you attach all the metadata to all the tracks, so that I'm looking for something with 115 BPM in this style with a saxophone, and so they'll find it that way. So it's a lot of metadata and a lot of just making it easy for you have to put yourself in the shoes of the music supervisor and say, what would it take to do that job? Make it easy for them. So a lot of them go to libraries, or they have sync agents that they normally work with. So there's agents that represent artists, and then there's libraries that have cleared music, that they can license from. So
you have to submit from to get into their closed group.
So you can start, if you're just starting down the sync path, you could start by trying to get your stuff directly into a library, and then hope a supervisor finds it and likes it. Or you can get a sync agent to represent you, or if you've got some connections, you can go directly to the supervisor. That's a lot harder, but you can find them. There's strategies for, approaching all of those.
Yeah. So for a local artist, what things do they need to do as first steps that they should be taking to get their music? I'm registered to BMI. but like some of those groups and stuff like that. And Darla in our group was like really educated with some of the things that she was sharing on it. What are some things that they should be doing in that space right now, just for normal things that they can bring in?
As I said, the first thing is like make sure you've got documentation on all the split sheets if there's multiple people involved, or you've got releases from everybody who played in on the tracks. And then wherever you recorded it, whether you recorded it at home or at a studio, get the stems, put them into groups, master those, and then pitch it to a library. That's probably the first place I would go. And when you pitch it to a library, either look for somebody who reps that kind of music or reps a lot of music, but they've got a gap,
right,
that you might be able to fill
in a specific genre or sound.
Sounds, yeah. It's like, they've got country and they've got folk, but they don't have like modern Americana kind of stuff,
Right.
Don't have anything that sounds like Nickel Creek,
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been doing work writing music royalty free for like podcasters or YouTubers. And then I've also have a YouTube channel, and I'm paying like a blanket license to MusicBed, where I have, basically what you're saying right there is essentially what that is. I don't know if it operates the same way as like being placed in a movie like that, but where I'm able to pick music as a content creator. It's funny being on like both sides of it, of like writing music for content for that, but paying for music for my content at the same time. Because I also, just like a music supervisor, for the stuff that I'm utilizing that for, I don't have the time to write music for every video that I shoot, but every video needs music, know? It really does. It makes quite a difference in the impact of whatever that content is that you're creating.
Yeah, those music libraries run the full gamut from like there's the all you can eat, just pay a subscription. That's what you're using for your podcast, right?
Right.
And so you're not paying a lot, and the payouts for the composers and the people who own the mechanicals is not that big on those. It's a huge body of content, right? But how do you search for stuff there? In that
library?
Yeah.
That you can either search by genre, you can search by feeling, you can search by anything like that. And you can switch between lyrics or no lyrics.
Yeah, right. So that's exactly what I mean. Is like I'm looking for, and people sit there, spend the whole day. We actually did that exercise with Darla one time. There's a guy that I meet with every Saturday. He lives in Switzerland, and he just had Darla give me a bunch of adjectives to describe the music, that he could then put into a metadata library, as metadata on his music, and then, think about what kind of brands are associated with that you would associate with this sound.
Yeah.
So, I don't listen to that many commercials, but if you listen to commercials, it's like you hear the music there. It's like, that's a good Nike sound, or that's a good Adidas sound, or that's a good,
that's cool.
Marriott hotel sound. I don't know.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I get that. Like even when I'm writing this stuff for podcasters or YouTube or something, like I have to ask questions to know what direction to go in, because people want like all sorts of different genres, and you have to like, I don't know, this is your entrance. So it's like, what would you walk into? Say you were having a concert, or like this was your show or live event. Like what type of sound do you picture you walk in the room to? Like what does that look like? What feelings should people have when they listen to this? Like how should they feel? Where are they coming to you from in an emotional way? Where what are they hoping to get from this? And like all these things that associate. And it's weird to pick out those instruments right away. Yeah. Like I remember I was talking to a client recently, and she's like, if you're listening out here, Elizabeth, it was a really cool conversation, but it was like, she was saying, I need to be trusted and like energetic and hopeful, but like not like zero BS though, like still like very like this. And I was like, I'm starting to hear the first parts, and I'm like, okay. And I'm starting to hear like, like, I don't know, like soft basses and maybe like some like string, like light staccato string. I'm thinking of things, right? And then I'm like, as soon as she's like, but zero BS, and I was like, okay, no glockenspiel, like no light, like bell stuff. Those are gone now. Those can't be in here. And it's funny where like, it's funny to think through that process when you're like writing things for a mood or a sync or something like that. I don't know that I do the same things as your artist, but it's an interesting thought process. It's different than anything I've ever done for normal writing sessions.
Yeah. Yeah. You think about movie trailers, listen to a movie trailer. I mean, it's almost always a tension track, you know?
Yeah.
So like it starts off and it builds and it builds and builds and there's like super tense and then it drops and then it comes back and super tense again, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. So the guy who teaches the course, his name's Vel Williams. Most people haven't heard of him, but you know, he's a 7-figure a year sync licensing guy. So there's money there, but still, there's still more money in streaming than there is in sync licensing. It's just that, most people don't pursue either one enough.
Just in terms, you're talking about just typical streaming, like in modern day, getting plays on your stuff.
Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music. Yeah.
You saying that pays more than sync licensing?
I'm saying that there's more money paid out that way than in licensing. There's, I think sync licensing is probably 5% of total payouts, but the numbers can be big on a per payout basis. I mean, get placed on a good TV show, you could make $100,000.
I bet. Yeah, some of those like the NFL songs and things like that. Some of the stuff that they use out is crazy.
Yeah, actually, you mentioned NFL. I'd forgotten about that for a second, but like video game too. That's all sync licensing, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I went to. I saw the composer for like the Tomb Raider games and like for the Destiny games when I went to some of the Audio Engineer Society conventions, and those were crazy to watch the way that I saw behind the scenes of like one of the UI things that they had created for like the way that a character like approaches something and like control of the crossfading of like music coming in and out of that space into like it just blew my mind. Like that stuff is just like same thing with mixing in 360, like all these other things. Like it's just I have a hard enough time just being an adequate mix engineer, let alone like some of that stuff. You're just like, oh my God, dude, what are you doing?
Well, and I met the guy who did in a sync licensing group. I met the guy who probably 20 years wrote all the music for pro wrestling for pro.
Oh
wrestling.
Yeah, what a blast, huh? That had to be a thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So did you say the name of that course? Did you recommend it to people?
Yeah, I would. I mean, the guy who teaches it is Vo Williams, and then the guy who set up the course is Ari Herstead, and Ari's got a book out, How to Make Money in the New Music Business, and he's just started a whole bunch of courses, and basically, so it's a course which the course probably take you a weekend to take,
Sure.
It's not long, but then there's a Facebook group where everybody meets, and then there'll be Zoom calls as well. So you can get your questions answered by somebody who's killing it in the business.
Knows what's going on.
So he's got one on sync licensing. He's got another course on online streaming performances. And he's got another one on how to grow your Spotify plays. My nephew took that course and it's worked out really well for him.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think he probably spends, I don't know. I mean, his numbers are way up. With doing Instagram ads to gain new followers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite a thing.
And he's been doing it for not quite a year now, but he's grown some good numbers. So
that's awesome. It's good that it like paid off for him.
Yep. Yeah. So it'll help him a lot when he gets ready to start touring again,
Yeah. That's perfect. It's a good time to build. Like how did that go for you? Because I know that COVID hit some momentum on you and like it hit hard, but then you developed this label in that time. Like, I don't want to, like, I've been touching into COVID throughout the series, throughout the podcast, because it's been a piece of history and it will be embedded into the people that we spoke on throughout these times. But we don't have to go like crazy into it, but like what did you see through those times, like you with the label creation and anything like that, and how did you navigate it? Because it's been different for each audio person I've talked to.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I did is I signed up for guitar lessons. You know?
Like, I'm going to get better at this.
Exactly.
Now.
Yeah, I've been playing since I was 16, and so I've been playing for a lot of years. And I'd probably taken 10 lessons in my life, you know, and it's like, okay, I'm going to challenge myself to learn a different style of music, and I'm going to push myself. And so I signed up with David Hamburger, who's this fingerstyle blues guitarist that I adore. So I signed up for online lessons with him. And then I started this, I started a, well, call it a mastermind group, you know, kind of like your group, right?
Yeah.
And we had like 20 something people on, 20 to 25 people on. Over time it whittled down, but it was basically, okay, this has happened. What are we going to do? Take care of ourselves. What are we going to do to help people, you know, adapt? And so we just we'd brainstorm. People shared ideas. We had a great group. We kept it going we met weekly for 26 weeks. And then people started getting opportunities to play out a little bit. This is before it peaked up in December. So we decided to put it on hold for a while, but we did that. So that was good. Meanwhile, over the summer, like you said, we just like, okay, Brad Myrick had NH Music Collective, and he'd been instrumental in helping us on the production side. And we'd already done 2 albums with him. And so we said, this might be a good time to partner up with him, give a little cash infusion to his business so we could be prepared to grow on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to pick up, you know, if you ask most artists where they want to play, why they want to play in a place that's a great listening environment where the audience is there for the music, you know. So we're trying to cultivate more opportunities like that. That partnership with Belknap Mill has been great. We've got a vineyard now, a winery that we're partnering up with now to provide music programming for them.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and these will be, you know, proper listening experiences. Trying to do more of that. And then at the same time, over the summer, we couldn't do the indoor house concerts, but we got this, the previous owners had horses, and they had a dressage ring, which makes for a perfect socially distant performance area.
Yeah.
It's all flat. And so we did 4 outdoor concerts for people that had recorded here, you know, back to how do we help them make money back? So Alex Preston played here. Cameo did a concert here. And then we had Audrey Drake, who had started a project here before we took over, and she finished up her project and did an album release concert here. So it was all good. It was fun.
You can't beat a house show. Like, I know that like the indoor and the outdoor and the different things that you've done in the past and now are probably all different things. But like some of my favorite shows I've ever played were always house shows. They were just like, you just can't beat the intimacy that happens at a house show, because people just feel like it's a party basically instead of a concert. Even though at concerts, people are not bashful people. It's not like that. It's just like people are more like, I don't know. You like can't really be disrespectful because you're kind of at someone's house. Like, and you really can't not be happy to be there, because like, why are you there? Right. Like, I know, I guess you could be that way at a concert because someone dragged you there or something like that. But it's just like, I don't know. House shows have been incredible. I've played a bunch of them like in my younger years and recently, not during COVID times, but I love house shows basically. So I could see doing the outdoor ones if you've got the space for it during the times. That's probably amazing. People probably love that.
It did. I mean, we can park about 25 cars on the yard, so that was fine. We had plenty of places to put people. Nobody had to be too close, so that was, you know, it was all safe. But you're making a really interesting comment there. It's like a party. These are actually when we run them, they're concerts. You know, it's a 1-hour concert. We don't go over an hour. It's a 1-hour concert. I always tell the artists, like, just leave them wanting more. Just make it amazing,
Yeah.
And it's a free concert, so it's all donation based. And the artists will make more from those than they will from most of the gigs they play.
I bet.
I had a kid, 17 years old, played a house concert for us one time. We had 40 people there. And the kid made $900, for a 1 hour show. It's like
amazing. Yeah.
You're not going to get that at many bars around here.
No, that's not. Couple PBRs and a ham sandwich, right?
Yeah. I mean, I actually think the worst I've ever had anybody do was like $250. And frankly, that was because he didn't follow our advice and keep it short, He went, it's a really interesting phenomenon. But I learned a lot about house concerts from reading a book, No Booker, No Bouncer, No Bartender. It's a woman out in California who makes her living doing house concerts.
Really?
Yeah. And so she cuts a new album every year. Her husband's an engineer. She cuts a new album every year. She goes out on tour. Shannon Curtis is her name. And you've probably never heard of her. I hadn't heard of her, but I saw the book. I bought the book. I read it. I coach people out of that book, frankly. And I actually contacted Shannon right before, after 6 months of COVID. I said, "How you doing?" Because you can't play house concerts anymore. She had shifted to online.
Got it.
And it's like, how does that go? An online house concert. But it's like, it's a concert. It's like this. It's, same kind of intimacy. I can see you. She can see the audience. She does it over Zoom, and she has everybody leave their cameras on, And so it's like being in front of an audience. And she said the money that she makes is about the same, except she doesn't get as much in merch sales. It's because it's online. So
fair. Wow.
So she did 40 house concerts in the first 6 months.
Wow. Good for her.
Shannon Curtis. Buy her book, $9.95, I think. I don't get a commission. So
hell yeah. Yeah, actually you beat me to it. I'm about to, in a couple seconds here, we'll ask you the 5 questions at the end, and one of them is resources, but you've given us 2 very good ones throughout the show here. So see if we can drag anything else out of you for it. But I want to ask you, John, one more question, and then I've got my 5 questions to wrap this up, if that's cool by you.
Absolutely.
Because of your successes recently, helping out some indie artists here who might not have done some of the things in the past, what would you tell to someone that, maybe they're not at the spot yet to step into a label, to have someone take care of some of these things? What should people be doing 100% of the time with a release? Or what are some of the things that you found are very successful to back someone up with a release? What should artists be doing? Just local indie artists who are releasing their music, but they're just sick of it not performing well on when they post it on Facebook and it's just crickets, or they put it out and they have 0 streams. What should they be doing right now actively to back their releases in 21?
Sure. First of all, update all your content. So it's not just the release. It's put up new photos. If you can, create a music video. It doesn't have to be an amazing video, but, spend some time creating a decent music video. If you can't put together a decent music video, at least do a lyric video so people learn the words. Reach out to local radio stations, try to get some radio play. There's a few that'll play indie, not a ton, but some will. Contact bloggers, podcasters to see what shows you can get on, talk about it, and then create a whole calendar of promotion, that kind of crescendos up till the time of the release. So we started promoting. I mean, frankly, anybody can do an online house concert, it probably helps to have somebody else running the controls, but
it's stressful to do yourself.
It's stressful to do yourself, but have a friend run the controls, but do an online house concert that's private where you introduce the new music, before it's actually released to the public. And then when it does release, everybody that you played for is going to want to hear the recorded version and
nice.
Share it with friends. Do the Spotify pre-save. A lot of people don't think to do that.
Yep.
Submit it weeks in advance. There was a girl, she was an opener I used to run this open mic down in Massachusetts for kids. This is my last open mic performer. She recorded her first song and she did it right. She submitted it to Spotify like 4 weeks in advance of the release.
Yep.
And sure enough, she got picked up on one of the playlists. And
no way.
Yeah, it does happen. Doesn't happen to a lot of people and doesn't happen a lot of the time. But, but the first week it was out, she had 5,000 streams, It's like,
hell yeah. That's
girl,
awesome.
Just don't expect it to happen every time. But it's a good start. It's a darn good start for a 17-year-old kid,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So take it. Own it. So those are some of the things. I mean, there's a whole bunch of others, but I'd start with that. One last thing. So there's like 1 billion platforms, right? Make sure you've got it on Bandcamp. Make sure you've got it on SoundCloud. Make sure you've got it on all the streaming platforms. And if you actually want to get anything back, make sure you've registered with PRO, as GAP or,
Yep. So for anyone out there because I know that we've been kind of like really diving into some of this stuff, I will have some of these things in the show notes for you. I'll have some of these resources for some of these things that John is talking about right here will be in the resources, wakingupfromwork.com/show notes, episode 101. And then obviously I'm sure you could hit up John too, but I'll have some of those links for you. So John, I've got like 5 questions that I do at the end. Are you ready to hang with me for those? And then I'll get you on you probably have even more stuff for your long day.
I do. Yeah, but go ahead. 5 questions.
Awesome. First one is, why do you do what you do every day versus any other thing that you could do on the planet? Why do you do this label? Why do you do the studio? I know that we have the story behind it, but sometimes there's more.
Because I love music. I love being around music, and I love being around musicians that are better than me. So.
Same.
Yeah.
Same, man.
That's the answer, man. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, like I said earlier, it pulled you into it. You were told that this was what you were supposed to be doing by the universe. It pulled you in. The next question would be, along like setting up some of these things, what has been your biggest mistake in that process? Like maybe you learned a really valuable lesson from it, so it wasn't, something that wasn't worth your time. But like, what's something that you would say, hey, avoid this if you're following any of these routes? Like, try not to do this thing if you could still learn the lesson.
I'm trying to think of the biggest mistake. I won't deny. Well, it sort of depends on how you view mistakes, right? So there's a number of decisions that I've made that enabled me to lose money. So I got lots of tax write-offs.
Positive.
I could use in future years. That's great. I don't know. I mean, I would. I you know what? The biggest mistake I've made is thinking that what I think is a great idea to help artists isn't for everybody. Sometimes I think it sounds reasonable. I think it sounds like a good thing, but red flags go up for a lot of people, and I need to listen more carefully.
Wow.
Not presume.
It's really hard to do. It takes like a lot of. That's just a really hard thing to do. It's just so much perspective and like feeling out people, and that's just a hard thing. Yeah. That just happens.
Yeah.
So, flip side to it, best thing you've come up with along the way here. What's like your best idea or like you're most pumped on?
I am right now, honestly, I'm most pumped on some of the event stuff that we're doing. And I'm pumped on the record label stuff that we're doing, where these are not huge investments. These are not even 5-figure investments. They're 4-figure investments, and it's working. So I'm pumped about that. And as long as the artists are as pumped as we are, then they'll get their money. We'll be able to recoup it. We'll be able to invest in other artists. I don't have an unlimited fund of money, so I'm going to need recoupment, but yeah, I'm excited about this. And the other thing is, we haven't really talked about artist development, but people are starting to notice. They'll say, gee, I noticed some so-and-so's really upped their game. And it's like, are they in your coaching program? Say, well, actually, yeah, they are. So that's kind of cool that people are starting to notice that. So that's
awesome. Yeah. That feels really good to see that.
It does.
this one I said, like, and if you don't have any more, because you already shared a bunch, but I always ask, like, what's one resource you recommend to the audience? Could be the ones you've already recommended, which I'll include the show notes, or if you have anything else, book, podcast, video, movie, it can be any type of resource that's been impactful to you that you think someone can be. It doesn't have to even be music particular. I
mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it one more time because Making It in the New Music Business by R.A. Herstead it's a great book. It's comprehensive. Most people aren't going to follow most of the advice, but if they did, it would up their game a lot.
Yeah.
And frankly, some of the coaching and some of the services that we provide are straight out of that book. We're doing for artists what they're not doing for themselves. And some 100%. Of us come straight out of that book. So that's why actually, I was surprised when I was reading through the book that Ari actually mentioned Shannon's book in his book for those people who want to go out and do house concerts and how to do that. So,
cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I literally rebought that. I bought that as a book because I don't feel like I got the content from it well as an audiobook. That was one where I'm finding I have to read that book. Well, it's not good as an audiobook. It's a
reference book. It's a reference book, man.
Yeah.
It's like anytime I'm going, okay, all right, we're going to release another album. What are those 27 steps that I need to go through? Make sure the artist has done or that we've done for them before it's released, Go through it. Absolutely.
Cool. Last one is the easiest question, John. Where do people keep up with you, Greenhouse, Unlabeled? Where do people keep up with this stuff?
The Greenhouse Recording Studio you'll find on Facebook. If you want to connect with me, it's connect at the-greenhouse-newhampshire.com. That's the best way. That's the best way. Connect at thegreenhouse-newhampshire.com.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll have those in the show notes for people that want to link up with them. And cool. John, thank you for, we chat a lot, man. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to chat, but share. So
thanks, man. It's been fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for tuning in live on Instagram. Thank you people who are tuning in on Facebook or YouTube. And we can talk to Cameo next week, who works with John, and get a artist perspective on some of the stuff that we're talking on. Continue this talk on music right now. I'm in kicking off the next bit of episodes here, John, back in my roots here. So
cool, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.